Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DXperience and welcome to the second webinar in our Take a Tour 12.1 series, Productivity Accelerated, presented by the Chief Scientist of the DXperience IDE team, Mark Miller. In this webinar, Mark will demonstrate the latest improvements in CodeRush and user experience testing released as part of our next generation of tools, DX2. CodeRush is a Visual Studio add-in that helps make your code better, faster, and smaller. See how using CodeRush can simplify your code to make it more maintainable, learn how CodeRush enables smaller, faster applications, and hear how to do user experience testing with DXperience 12.1. Mark will answer questions at the end of the session, but you can enter your questions at any time in the questions section of your control panel. Thank you for joining us, and I will now hand things over to Mark Miller.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm super excited about coded UI testing, and we'll be giving you a preview of that today. We'll show you what's available in Visual Studio 2012, and later on, sometime in the future, I'll give you an in-depth webinar on coded UI testing and CodeRush testing tools. We'll be going into more depth. Okay, so today we're going to talk about three things. We'll talk about coded UI. I've saved that for the end. We'll do that at the end. We'll show how coders can simplify your code to make it more maintainable and more compact. We'll talk about finding duplicate code and consolidating it. We've got some very cool things in 12.1. Coming in there, and we're going to start with showing how to make your applications faster. And so I'm creating a console application called Perf Explore here, and it's just going to be kind of a command line application. I'm going to use some CodeRush features to build it. I'm not going to explain a number of the CodeRush features I use because the session isn't devoted to that particular aspect, but you will see code being written quickly, and CodeRush is helping me do that. Down at the bottom, you'll see the keys that I'm pressing down here. I do have some custom templates I've created as well, specifically just for this demo, so you may see some templates down here that are just for the demo that come up here. So we're going to start by sending just the prompt out in here. So we're going to create a command line. What I want the command line to do is allow me to type in the name of a method, then call it, and then we'll find out how long it took for that method to run. So I'm going to add more methods here that we'll use to examine the perf, but first I've got to create the framework. And so for the next thing we'll need to do is we'll need to get the command that we want to execute, and then I'm going to have a while loop here, and I'll just say while true, and we'll say execute command, and we'll pass in the command there. And then now that we've done that, we've executed the command. So let's do this. Let's take this console write call. I'm going to do an extract method on this call, which is simply draw caret. And I'm doing that because I want to use it again down here. And then I'm going to just do a write line underneath it, so we actually write the forward after the command executes. And we'll draw the caret, and then we'll come in here and we'll grab this new line again. And that's what that'll look like. The execute command piece will come in here, and this is the custom template that I created for this, where we'll just go in and we're going to call on the type that we're currently in program. We'll call invoke member, which is just from system reflection. It allows us to call a member of this class, and it's going to be static, and it's going to be a method that we're going to invoke, and we'll ignore the case, and it can be non-public or public. The main thing is it has to be static. So with that, I can come in here and I can say, well, let's do one more thing. Let's do a try-catch around this. So I'll select that. I'll hit the letter C. We've got a try-catch. And down in here, we'll do a console write line. We'll pass in ex.message. So we'll just see the message coming out. And let's do one more thing. Let's select this bit, and we'll hit the CodeRush key. We'll embed the selection inside a stopwatch. And that will allow us to see how long the time is. What's the time on this? So I'm just going to reformat this a little bit here so we can see what the time of that piece is for that member that we execute. And so now let's just create a couple sample members here just to test it. We'll call this one hello, and inside here we'll say hi there, like that. And then we'll have another static method called by, and we'll do a console write line, see you later, like that. And maybe I'll have one more, and I'll just call this exit so we can get out of here. And then we'll call environment exit like that. And so if we run that, if I did all this correctly and we run that, we should be able to come in here, and there's our cursor. So I hit enter, and we get the exception. We haven't found it at all. Let's go in here and type in bye, for example, and hit enter. See you later. Hello. And there you can see the time of it, and then you see hi there is the response back. And we can type in exit, and we get out. So that is our command line framework. Now that was all built with CodeRush templates, gives you an idea of how quickly you can write code. And let's go in here, and I've got a few other prefab templates that I've created to explore some performance issues. So this method is called big concat, and it works with strings, and you can see we've got some string concatenation in here. Now, typically when I write code, I like to write for clarity first, and then performance second. So I write to make the code clear, and then if I have performance issues, I can come in and clean them up. Well, you probably are aware of the some of the performance issues associated with string concatenations. And we can test this out here. We'll just do a run on here real quick. I'll type in big concat, we'll run it. We can see that it takes almost a second to run about 20,000 times through this loop here. So we can close that down. Let's make a copy of big concat, and I'll paste it down here. We're going to call this one big concat 2. And I'm going to select this code in here. I'm going to hit the CodeRush key, and I'm going to choose use string builder on A, the variable A. And it's going to replace this with the string builder. You can compare the method above with the method below to see what the changes are. And you can see here we're just calling append here on this. So we'll run this one more time. We'll call big concat, and there it takes a second. We'll call it a big concat 2, and you can see that it takes about 1/400th, 1/500th about of the same time. So it's much faster to use a string builder. So there's one example of making code faster, making your code faster. Okay, next demo. Let's go into look at code duplication detection. And for this, I'm using a project called Umbraco. It's a content management system. It consists of a lot of code, 23 projects, I think about 1,000 files if I'm recalling correctly. And I've got the duplicate code window up from here. So you can go into DevExpress tool windows, bring up duplicate code, and if you don't see anything, you can click the refresh button right here, and it'll run the analysis on it. So here you can see it's running the analysis on the duplicate code, and we made some enhancements in 12.1 to with regards to consolidation and detection. Let me come in here. I'm going to choose expand all on these so you can kind of see these. So these are all the duplicates that it's found inside of here. And you notice this bar is increasing and getting wider as we get to the top and getting smaller as we get to the bottom. The size of that bar is a visual indicator of the magnitude of the duplication. So if I have like something duplicated for 50 times, it's all of that code that's duplicated times 49, because we're still going to have one left at the end. If it's duplicated twice, it's just all of that code once, a single time. So that's how we're measuring this redundancy here. It's essentially a measure on the code that we can get rid of, or that you could get rid of if you consolidated it. Now CodeRush has built-in consolidation, and you can right-click on this and you can choose consolidate, and here you can see it said loading not available. Well, one of the features that we added in 12.1 is this button right here, which checks consolidation availability. We'll click this, we'll run this, and it'll go through. And it'll go through on each one of the duplicates it found and check to see if we can actually consolidate it. And if we can, it's going to put a green box next to it, like you can see right there. So there's the green box. And when this is done, we can go through and we can look through some of these. In fact, there's one in particular that that I'm particularly loving. Actually, there are two, but I'm not going to show you this one. This one is a super complex one, but this is complex because this is redundancy across two different projects, and the solution for this involves creating essentially, well, either a third project or creating a project that, or putting code into a project that both of these reference. It's an incredibly complex sequence of steps that would take a human being between 10 and 40 minutes to complete, and coders can do it in seconds. Let's look through it. A couple others that are down in here that are interesting. this one right here is the one that I really like a lot. So this is, like I said, this is a source code to Umbraco. It's open source. Here we can see the duplicates listed side by side. If you have more screen real estate, right now I'm running at a pretty low resolution, you can set up a horizontal layout and see them all like this. One of the other things we added is this highlighting here, so you can see how things are linked together. So for example, if I hover over the B here, over out here you see init, and over here you see P that's highlighted. Now if we look at this code, we see that there are some differences between these methods. Here, for example, we call mandate parameter not null, and these other two we don't call that. The other thing that's very interesting here is the list. The list here is of type expression. Here the list is of type element init, and here it's of type member binding. So we have three different types in the list that we're iterating through. The other thing that adds complexity to this is here we're calling a method called visit binding, which is going to take original, original. Let me show you that. Original is right here. It's of type. It's a read-only collection of type member binding. So what that means is we're calling visit binding, passing in a member binding. Here we're calling visit element initializer, passing in an element init. And here we're calling just visit, passing in an expression. So it looks structurally very similar, but there are some distinct differences. Just come in here, right-click, let's consolidate it. So now we can say let's consolidate it. If you see to the current class, I highly recommend choosing that one. That means all the duplication is in one single class. And so it makes sense to put it in there. You can, of course, take it out to a new class if you want in the current project, in a different project. Also, we added this, I'll show you this very briefly, to another position. And this allows us to select a class in a particular project, and you can see what's going to happen, what it will look like in those locations, depending on the code that's going to go in there. And you might see multiple projects, things like that, that are available to you. So here, for example, here's an example of two different projects that are available. Okay, so we'll go ahead and consolidate from here. We'll say to the current class, and let's look at the code that it generates for us. So this is the extracted visit. We'll just call this the, I'll just call this visit, super visit, like that. And if we do tab to next reference, CodeRush feature, just hit the tab key here. We can see all the different calls, the three different calls in those three different places here. So here, for example, is that call to parameter not null from that one. And what are we passing in? We're passing in the original list. And what it gives us, by the way, it gives us this generic method here where this type T1 is specified. It gives us a read-only collection that we're passing in of that type. It gives us a list of that type. It even gives us a function. So a function is something that we can make a call on, and it's going to return that type as well, whatever that type is, and it's going to take an int. And so the code is inside here. This is the code. It's based on the piece that I consolidated from. So that one that had the variable b, that's the one that we consolidated from, and that's what it looks like. So very, very cool stuff in terms of consolidating, right? Instead of having this same code everywhere 3 different times, imagine if we had a bug there, imagine if we wanted to make it more flexible, imagine if we wanted to change the logic, right? Now we have the logic in one place and instead of multiple places, and that part's that's awesome. It's awesome because my code base is now smaller. It's easier to learn. The DXE is probably going to be smaller as well, so lots of benefits there. Okay. All right. The last demo is coded UI testing. And Amanda, if it looks like we might have some questions, you can interrupt me at any time if we've got questions that make sense that we need to talk about on there. So I'm going to create a new project for the coded UI, and I'm going to use the DevExpress project templates that we have, and I'm going to create a Word-inspired application. And this one is going to be an awesome version of Word. So I'm going to call it Super Word, and I'm going to actually call it Super Word Will Crush All because I have great hopes and dreams for my new version of Word that I'm going to create. So we're going to create this, and by the way, at the bottom we have the keys window, and that's been showing the keys that I've been pressing down here. You may have been noticing that. So here it's going to open it up. It's going to populate the ribbon for me with the buttons. And there's the buttons right there. I'm going to go over into here. I'm going to do a custom template I wrote because I just want to change the font. And let's also set the text equal to Superword, like that. And let's build it. Build succeeded. I'm going to start without debugging here. And let's go over into the Solution Explorer. Let's right-click over here. Let's choose Add New Project. And we're going to add a test project. We're going to grab a coded UI test project. That's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and say we're going to record some actions. And here's the coded UI test builder UI. And let's see, there's Superword right there. So let's go ahead and record a new test. So we'll click this button to start recording. And now I can just interact with my UI. So I'll click over here. I'll say, this is DXperience. I'll select the whole thing. I'll come in here and I'll click this a couple times. And now I'll select just DXperience, and I'll hit Control-B to bold it. And let's come up here. We'll click this and go grab the orange. And we're done. I'll click here to pause the test. By the way, you can click this to see the steps. You can see here I've clicked Grow Font a couple times. In fact, I was clicking so fast it was recorded as a double click, but the Grow Font button just simply executes it twice when it sees a double click coming in, something coming in that quickly. And you can see there's my interactions. Notice with regards to clicking, like click this DevExpress client or click Gallery Control 2 or the font color button, these kinds of things. When these clicks occur, these are not recorded, for example, in screen coordinates or things like that. You don't see the coordinates here. When we look at the code, you can actually see in the code the coordinates are all in client coordinates relative to the control. But the cool thing about the coded UI is it has sophisticated logic and heuristics for finding controls, so that when you rearrange or reposition controls on the form, the tests still work. So now that we've built that test, let's click on Generate Code. We're going to call this is DX. And pop that in. And now if we're going to do one more thing. Let's go in here and let's create an assertion. With assertions, we can go and we can select, for example, a control, and we can go in and we can say, let's look at the values and create an assertion on that particular value, like does it have focus or not, something along those lines. What I want to do is come in here into the RTF control, and I just want to create a simple, quick assertion here to check the text is, in fact, what I've typed in, and we'll call this is this DX, like that, kind of like a question mark right there. And we've generated that code. And now if we go back into our source, it's not here, we want to go to, there it is, Superword will crush all. Here you can see the code that's been generated for us in this. Let's go ahead and we'll close this down. We'll do a build all. Let's bring up the Test Explorer. And no tests are listed yet, but if we build, it'll take a moment, but it'll come in here and find this. In fact, you know what I want to do? I want to rename this. I want to call this first UI test. Let's build one more time. And there you can see it right here. Let's go ahead and start up without debugging again to get that instance. Come over here, choose Run All. And when the instance comes up, I'll take my hands off the keyboard. Here we go. My hands are off the keyboard now. And there you can see the test is running. There's the selection. There's the clicking. There's the selection again. I'm hitting Control-B. I mean, that's what I did, right? And my hands were off the keyboard the whole time. And now what you end up seeing here is the test has passed. So very, very cool stuff with regards to the coded UI testing. Our controls, the DevExpress controls, we are the first third-party vendor to announce full support for coded UI testing. Coded UI testing is available in several stages, and there are some easy, simple stages, and there are some much harder, complex stages, and we have a full depth of support with regard to the DevExpress controls. So the first vendor to have support for it, coded UI testing, is really, really well designed from my perspective. I really like what Microsoft has done here. I think they've done a great job with it, and you can see how easy it is to create tests that verify your UI is working as expected. So, so yeah, that's new in 12.1 in DevExpress controls 12.1. Amanda, with that, let's we can go over to questions. Maybe you can help me with the go through questions if you're not plenty.
Great. We do have one question that came in, Mark, from Angie. When I go to add Umbraco to Visual Studio 2010 through the extension manager, I get 3 options: Umbraco user control, Umbraco project, and Umbraco custom data type. Do I need all 3 or just one of them?
Yeah, I am not sure. I actually have not added Umbraco to Visual Studio through the extension manager. When I'm talking about Umbraco, I'm talking about the content management system open source project that I actually have the project open and loaded inside of Visual Studio. I'm not talking about an extension. So this is the solution, the CMS development project right here. So so I don't actually have it loaded. So I actually am not familiar with that and don't know the answer to that, unfortunately, Angie. I do not. So any other questions?
Okay, everybody. That's the only question. Well, here we go from Jeremy. Does coded UI work if you are developing a plugin for another application, i.e. your plugin is launched within another application?
Yeah, it absolutely should work, Jeremy. When you go into, let's go bring this up. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. If we come in here and we say generate code for UI test, use the coded UI builder, and let's go into, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but let's try it. Let's go into Perf Explorer and run it. And let's go in here and let's see what we can do. This is a test like this, and hit enter like that, and then come back over. In fact, what I should really do is do the do big concat like that, and then we can come in here and you can see in the steps that it's recorded right there. So the answer is yes, it absolutely should work. If we add this and run this and bring this back up, it should work. Should be able to find all of those. So, in fact, let's not exit a second. Let's actually try that. Let's generate code for this, and we'll call this the big concat test, like that, and close this down and see if that works. Let's go over to this piece right here. Let's comment these 2 pieces out and build. And run all and come back over here and see what happens. There you go. There you go. Okay, so it's pretty impressive stuff, right? You can record a test with any piece of UI. It doesn't, notice all of these things that are running, I'm running them, just starting them up as applications. So, and it's good, really good about the heuristics about finding the control again, even if things are changed, which is ideal in a plugin scenario, right? Because your plugin might be contributing UI, like a toolbar, that might be moving around, for example. So its heuristics about finding those pieces are pretty good. So even if the UI changes, like it's being moved around like a toolbar or something along those lines, or you just make changes to the UI itself by adding new controls or moving your controls around, the test should still work. They should require very few changes. So coded UI testing, in my opinion, like I said, is really, really well done. Again, I want to say DevExpress is the only component vendor that is offering full support for Microsoft's coded UI. It's great, great stuff. So let's see what other questions do we have, Amanda? What versions of DevExpress I see?
Are these tools specific to?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amanda.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right. In what versions of DevExpress is coded UI testing available? That's from Bradley, and that's 12.1 is the answer to that. So 12.1 controls, we have coded UI, full coded UI support available for most of our controls. The controls that don't have full support are getting it. So it's something that we are going to have in every single one of our controls. Not all the controls have it. If you go to the What's New page, you'll see the specifics over the controls that have full support and controls that have partial support for it. And then, Amanda, there was a question you were going to read?
I didn't know, did you get to do the coded UI test work in a build service?
I'm not, I don't know enough about, I don't work with build services at all, Jeremy, so I'm not sure. I have any context at all on that. So unfortunately, I am I'm pretty much, that's out of my area of expertise on that. So I don't know the answer to that. Let's see, do you need universal version of DX, or is coded UI available in the enterprise version? So according to what I saw online on that, let me get back to you on that question right there, Bradley, because I am not 100% certain on the answer to that. What I've seen online is the answer is it is in universal, but I heard somebody else saying, just mentioning that it might be in enterprise as well. So I need to research that and get back to you.
Mark, it is in enterprise.
It is in enterprise? Okay, so Amanda came in with that one. Thank you, Amanda, for that. And also, I bought a subscription to Windows Inside, upgrade to Universal subscription later to pay. Do I pay the difference, or do I have to incur the cost of Universal? No, you pay the difference in there. So you can contact client services at devexpress.com for that answer on that. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Well, that looks like all the questions for the moment. Everyone, we do have one more webinar in this Take a Tour 12.1 series. You can visit devexpress.com/webinars to register. It is July 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Touch, Dazzling Design, Developer Delivered. Tim Adlin, our creative director at DevExpress, will explain the design concepts integrated into the project templates and demo applications built into DXperience 12.1. Tim will walk through the design decisions that we've made and how to approach design concepts for the typical developer. See how to approach design concepts in building applications and learn how to use the DevExpress templates and samples as a starting approach to your app design. Learn to accelerate productivity, build stunning apps, and work faster and smarter than ever before with DX2. If you haven't downloaded 12.1 yet, you can try it for free today at devexpress.com/trial. All right, so thanks to Mark, and of course thank you to Code Project for hosting us, and thank you all for joining us. Let's see what develops.